welcome to this Christmas special edition of Wired Women. Today, I am honored and privileged to have a special guest with me. Her name is Monica Costa. She's a multimedia digital communications expert, and she has a master's in audio, visual, and communications. Her name is Monica Costa. Monica, thank you so much for joining me on the Wired Women special edition, and please introduce yourself to our guests.
Thank you, Jennifer, for the opportunity. You know that I always follow you, and I really respect all the things that you try to do, creating a network between ladies in the industry and not only. Yes, I work since many years, I would say since 1999 with marketing and communication. I started up as graphic designer in Italy. And after that, I was really passionate about audiovisual communication. So I started to do many other classes in order to have, let's say, preparation as multimedia producer. And that was a good idea because in that time, I remember that I was in the beginning of my career, and most of the places where I was working, agencies and whatever, my bosses were saying, Monica, you should be a graphic designer and just do that. Don't do anything else. Just focus on that specialization. But, you know, I had the sensation that the world was changing, and we are talking about the beginning of the 2000s. And it was a good idea to start to study about audio production, video production, web, developing it. So follow, let's say, my passion for the multimedia, because in fact, let's say that in 10 years, we can see that the world is completely changed. And now, if you are only a graphic designer, with respect, of course, when I say only, because it's a huge profession, maybe you can be a little bit limited, because if you work only with the printing, but you don't know nothing about web or whatever, you can have less opportunities. So I think that, speaking for my personal experience, it was a very good experience, a very good idea to follow my heart and become a multimedia producer. So that's
yeah, I completely agree with you. I mean, you have to be multi-skilled, multi-talented, and be prepared to have all sorts of skills. Like, to your point, most of these skills should be transferable skills, because we don't know where we're heading to. Like you said, 1999 to where we are now has been the fastest development in terms of technology and the internet and all of that happening. From the internet, we were just thinking about going 99. I think we were thinking about the 2.0, was it the millennium something?
Yeah.
That was going on in the media, and then here we are now. The internet is like it's old news already. So thank you for answering that. So Monica, you have a master's in audiovisual and communication, like you just kindly shared. Yes. What does Christmas look like in your view? And especially because I know that you are a person you are an Italian who lived in Thailand, and now you live in Cambodia.
Yes.
This is why I picked on you as a very special guest for this, because you've experienced life in the third world countries.
Yes.
But you're someone who comes from the Western life. So I would like to pick your brain, and just from the audio, visual, and communication point of view, can you tell our audience what Christmas looks like in your experience, and how that compares from the West to the third world countries?
Well, Jennifer, first of all, I want to tell you that when I came here the first time, it was 2012, and I was invited by companies based in Thailand, in Phuket, which is an important region of Thailand for what regard anything connected with the tourism industry. Mm-hmm. And I would never expect to find this kind of development in this part of the world. So when I was invited, I was very surprised that these people was asking me to bring my knowledge here. And I was like, I never been thinking in my life to go in Southeast Asia to work about branding, about design, about all of this. But, you know, it was a challenge. And so when I came, I opened up my mind, and it was a good idea, because this is a place where you have a duality, constantly in front of you. So you have one part of the country under development, and the other part of the country, I would say, better than New York in this moment. So you have you have infrastructure, you have buildings, modern everything. So you have this dualism constantly under your eyes. So if you ask me how I perceive Christmas from an audiovisual point of view here, well, actually, it's like to be in a Western country if we talk in terms of communication and how they accepted and integrated the Christmas into their culture. We have to say that in the local communities, both Thailand and Cambodia, they really like everything which is full of light, because this thing is usually connected with the Theravada school, with the Buddhism local school. So let's say that, in my opinion, they really like our way to celebrate the Christmas because of this huge number of lights and decoration. So also, if they are not Christian or whatever, they accept the celebration of Christmas, probably, unfortunately, in the most commercial way. So they don't have idea about the spirituality and the real reason that we have behind the Christmas. But if we talk in terms of communication, advertising, and whatever, I would say that what I see here is sometimes better than what I see in Europe, because they are competitive for what regards spot creation, whatever things connected with the audiovisual for TV or web in this moment. Yes, so it's very different than what you think.
I like that. I like the fact that you elaborated and the distinction between the fact that it's more of a commercial event than it is more a Christian observation. That's one. The second part I like is the dualism, the fact that it's a dual community. We've got on one hand a very westernized, very commercialized aspect of Cambodia. And then on the other side, we've got the person on the street, which is just no more happy, celebratory human being, celebrating Christmas, as it were, in the eyes of a Westerner. I really like the way you've unpacked that. And I think that we can unpack that a little bit further. So I would like to know, from your point of view, for instance, I know that you've also done on the side, you've done food and beverage as part of your marketing and communication forte. How, for example, does Coca-Cola look like in Cambodia? Because, like, for instance, here in the UK, we've got these adverts that are running right now where we've got the Coca-Cola truck running around the country. That is the onset of Christmas. When you see that Coca-Cola truck running around, what does Christmas look like in terms of advertising from a transnational corporation point of view? As an example, Coca-Cola and any other transnationals you can think of?
Well, talking about Coca-Cola, I didn't see a huge use of Christmas icons and whatever in the country. We have, of course, Coca-Cola here. There are several factories in Thailand and also in Cambodia, which produce drinks of various kinds. But if you ask me the impact in the collective imaginary about Coca-Cola connected with the Christmas communication, no, I've never seen it here. They don't push the same way they push in Europe or whatever in Western countries. And talking about international brands, what I saw, because of course I must observe what they do going around the commercial centers and all of these, the perception of Christmas passed through images that represent families together with a Christmas tree or making shoppings. But it's I would say a light version of Christmas. If we make a confrontation, our idea of and the way that Coca-Cola is connected with the Christmas in terms of communication in Europe is very different. I would say less stronger than what we have in Europe. For example, for me as Italian person, well, it's arrived a little bit later in Italy, but also in Italy, when it is Christmas time, we see a lot of advertising from international brands like Coca-Cola and others, but Coca-Cola especially, which go back in terms of image to the vintage period, so the 60s and all of that. And this image is pretty well received from the people, is connected with something nice. But here, there is not the same perception. So, yeah.
That's amazing. That's such a big distinction, isn't it? From what you see in the Western world and what you see in least developed countries. But I guess my point of view, to even delve deeper into that idea of commercialism and transnational corporations advertising over Christmas, as we just discussed, how sort of like would you say that they are present in terms of, because obviously Christmas is also a period of giving. So there comes in the idea of corporate social responsibility. Do you see a lot of these transnationals, or maybe just regular clients that you work with at your level in Cambodia? Do you see them taking that extra step to make a difference in the communities that they serve and work in? Or are they still very passive, or are they active, in fact, throughout the year? It's not just at Christmas.
Okay, this is a good question, Jennifer. Let me tell you this thing. I would say that I was very impressed coming to live here about how much people is sensitive to help each other, because of course there is a huge part of the population very unfortunate, which has no access to any kind of training or school, and so it's very difficult for them to find a job, maybe living in the countryside or in unfortunate areas. And I was very surprised. This thing really touched my heart to see how much, let's say, established people of any level, very often during the year, and not only at Christmas time, put together books, put together goods, put together anything a family could need, and by themselves, without a specific organization or whoever. They take the car and they go to help the people. This thing really impressed me. And this is part of the Theravada Buddhism culture. So the people here, the kind of Buddhism that they follow is a Theravada school. And this is the fact to help each other, to donate, to give to each other. It is part of the Buddha teaching. And they really put in practice, both in Thailand and in Cambodia. So something that in Europe we normally do, connected with the specific celebration like Christmas or I would say Easter, right? Special periods of the year. Here can happen during a normal Sunday. And this is beautiful, you know, so it is not something connected with the Christmas. Maybe some people do it always during Christmas, but it's something that happens very often. Yes, yeah. It is beautiful. Yes.
That's quite interesting, though, because obviously maybe that in the Western world, it's not necessarily connected to Christmas, but I like that distinction that you've made between the Buddhism and the fact that they are eager to help other people around them and the community around them all year through. I would like to believe from a Christian perspective that that's what we as Christians do as well all year round, whereas Christmas, I think, is only a time where the giving is more galvanized in the media, because the media then jumps onto the bandwagon and says Christmas is a time for giving. I think in that way it's seen as more of a purgatory and more of a commercial aspect of giving, whereas they downplay the fact that Christmas is actually a Christian occasion, event, as you put it at the beginning of this conversation, which means that Christians just come out a little bit more louder than they normally do throughout the year. So I think the foundation for Christian religion is about giving as well, more or less in the same way that you discussed the Buddhism. So, but so that's just to clarify that. But also what is interesting is that you as an Italian, this is where the Pope is in Italy, which is a Christian congregation, or Catholicism is part of the Christian religion. So you were born Italian. Would you now say that you've actually converted to being Buddhist, or are you still a Christian at heart, or you don't relate to any one of the religions per se?
No, I want to say that I strongly believe in the figure of Jesus Christ, as I come from a family that gave me very good teachings about that. And be a Buddhist person helps me to be a better Christian, you know. So I mean, I still be Christian. Of course, I believe in the religion that was given to me, to my family. But when you live in another country, you also have to open up your mind and get the best thing from all the things that happen around you. And Buddhism is a very beautiful thing because it's a philosophy. It's something that can make your life better. So let me tell you this thing, but I'm sure that you already know it. Also in Italy, we are yes, it is a very Catholic country. Go to church is very important and all of this, but especially in this last, I would say, 20 years, many young people get very far from the church, get very far because probably the teachings are provided a little bit in a boring way, or because the structures are not able to understand the right way to communicate with the young people, because this is an important thing. They should change the language of communication and the system and the voice of the communication on the basis of this generation. And we know that it's not so simple for the church. So I'm not saying it is church fault, but also the young people is a little bit more material and a little bit more selfish. This is caused by a number of factors. But so what I'm saying is, also living in a country that is very Catholic, I didn't see so much Christianity around me. My grandmother, she was amazing. All my family was amazing. But many people around me, they just go to church to show off. So they don't go to church because they believe in Jesus Christ. They just go to church because they have to show the new clothes and the big car. So, this is the truth. So we have to talk in this way and say, my belief is that Christ, like Buddha, it is something that we have in our heart. It is love. If we can feel love for others, if this thing is natural in us or have been in some way brought from our family, this is a gift. There is no matter which religion we follow, because love is the key. This is what I really believe. And a beautiful thing in the local culture is the very diffused concept of metta. Metta means compassion. It is a Pali word that means compassion. Comprehension is a very special kind of love, a super kind of love. So yes, I believe in love. So
I like that. I really like that. And you're very right. At the end of the day, most people, like even somebody who's not a Christian or whatever religion, they tend sometimes to even express that love much more deeply in a practical way than sometimes some of these people that are in religion can actually even do it. So I really like that, because at the end of the day, I think it's in our soul essence as human being to have that compassion, to have that love for one another, and just to live in this world and share this world in equal terms. So I really like that expression, the way you've expressed it. Thank you so much for that. And so maybe to just circle back to what we were talking about in terms of our professionals, the professional media and communication profession. We talked about how the transnationals in Cambodia or in the Western world, they act slightly different from the way they would normally act in a certain region. For example, we talked about the commercialization of Christmas through, let's say, Coca-Cola in England or in America, whereas, it's more about lights and festivities in Cambodia, for example. So during my final episode for the Wired Women, we had a question where one of the viewers asked me whether there were some genuine companies which I've worked with personally that have shown genuine compassion for the communities that they operate in. And if I could mention any one of those companies, and of course I have a few companies in my mind, but let me project that question on you and ask you, are there certain companies that you have worked with in the past, maybe clients that you've worked with that are so involved in their communities in terms of CSR that you can give an example of and give an example of what type of CSR agenda they're pursuing or pushing within the community?
Well, when I was working in Thailand, there is a huge Italian community working and doing business there. Okay. Impressive. We are over 20,000. And the most of us are experts in food and beverage industry. And I want to say that I was very happy to see that the community there was very active periodically during the year, and especially during the Christmas, so respecting our tradition, to organize charity events and go to support, some special projects through organization or directly going where the need was. And so I would avoid to make the name of some specific company, and I would like to give my props to the Italian community in Thailand, because I saw a great job from all of them there. In Cambodia, I want to say that also the charity events are very diffused, but I stay here full time only 1 year and a half, 2 years, so I do not have a total perception of what is going on. So, I don't want to expose me and make name of people in a situation where...
That's fine. That's absolutely fine. That's completely fine and acceptable. So maybe moving on from that. So let's talk about, in terms of right now, the times that we find ourselves in COVID.
Yes.
Right. So we're looking forward to 2021. What does it look like in the audiovisual communication industry? Are we doing enough as an industry to communicate what is going on with COVID? Can we do better? What does the future look like if you just had to put on a few, a lens towards the coming year, 2021? How do you see things going and unfolding?
You want a point of view from what I see here, where I stay, or a general point of view?
Generally speaking, as a professional in the industry, I guess.
Honestly, whatever I saw online regarding COVID, which is not produced by media, look like tentative to give clarification to people what they have to do about try to avoid to get it, and so actually I don't see a huge use of audiovisual done at a professional level to make the people conscious of what is going on, and very probably because it's not clear what is going on. The people is trying.
That's true.
People is trying to survive in a situation which is unpredictable. So very probably the reason why we do not see huge audiovisual that talk about that, because probably many creative people is asking to themselves what is going on, because it's where I live, everything connected with the audiovisual in some way regarding the COVID is for technical use. So visual support, simplifying to the people what they have to do to change their behavior, to recorrect their behavior in order to try to avoid it and all of that. But if we talk in terms of audiovisual communication from a creative point of view, it's very difficult to answer you, because actually...
But fair. That's fair enough. Yeah. Let me give you an example. For example, let me mention one of the brands. We've got Dove. Dove is a product, a brand under Unilever. So, for example, here in England, we have the audiovisual communication that Dove has come about with. Is they have they talk about the soaps and stuff like that, about washing hands and stuff like that. At the same time, it's product placement, but at the same time, it's corporate social responsibility.
Okay. Yes.
Because they are delivering a message which is a dual message. It's saying buy our products, so it's transactional. At the same time, it's saying we are a responsible brand and we are asking you to wash your hands. So I kind of maybe that helps to clarify a little bit what I meant by what is happening in your perspective in terms of the industry as far as audiovisual communication is concerned. Does that make sense?
Yes, actually, talking about the local scene, I didn't see any kind of, let's say, particular focus on this. Of course, everything about advertising on the TV, wherever it's about soap or detergent, there is always a reference to specific technical words like anamai, which means hygiene, which means the importance to keep ourselves in this moment protected. So there is an incrementation of technical words which are perceived as very strong from the local people in order to make them understand the importance. But it's a little bit difficult to give you a full point of view, because I don't think that actually here we have the same kind of advertisement that you have in the UK or in Europe, and I'm not honestly looking following TV, so I would say something not proper, because it's really
no, that's fair enough, because right now you're focusing on a niche market where you're actually operating from, so that's very fair. And it's also fair to say that they're not so big on visual in terms of television advertising spend. That's also fair. I mean, because the market is completely different from the market that I'm in. So I would have just been interested to know that if it does exist, and you've answered that very well to say it hardly exists. So that's a very good explanation, and I like that. So thank you. So going back to the fact that we're having a special Christmas edition. So the topic for me circles back to Christmas. So in terms of on the ground events happening in Cambodia or in Italy or in Thailand, what does that look like on the high street? Especially during COVID, would you be able to paint a picture for me what that looks like? Is there a lockdown? Is there a restriction in terms of how people can get together and celebrate Christmas this year?
You do me this question 1 week after we had here in Cambodia, specifically in Phnom Penh, the news that there were internal cases. Until this moment, they always talk about imported cases. So they talked saying that there were no COVID inside the country, and whoever was positive was brought from abroad, and they were found out at the airport. But last week the situation changed, and they had to close a mall, a huge city mall in the city. So actually, it's difficult to answer, because here they are doing a good politic in my way, because they are not creating the panic in the people, and they are saying to people, be careful, stay at home as more as you can, protect yourself, use the mask, and blah blah blah. But they are not panicking the people. They are not stopping the economy. They are not creating a situation of let's say mental pressure. Of course, they did also a good job closing completely the airports immediately. So when the situation was becoming big in the beginning of March, they closed the airport. So they warranted to the local people and the residents and the expats living here, let's say, a safe situation. So I want to say they did a good job. But if you ask me now, the perception of the Christmas is difficult, because in these last days we had this news and we don't know exactly what is going on. So we are ready for everything. It's unpredictable. So in terms of visual perception, this year I'm not seeing so much. I'm not feeling so much the Christmas in terms of decorations or whatever things can happen in the street, because probably of the situation, So,
But like you said, to your point, it's a very good observation. I mean, COVID is very unpredictable. So everything else is changing, and we don't even know what to anticipate and what to expect. So that's a fair response. Thank you so much. So going forward to 2021, as an audiovisual communications expert, with the number of years that you've got under your belt, what do you envision being the main trend in the industry as a whole, not just in Cambodia, but in the industry as a whole? Because obviously your work and my work is digital. So it doesn't matter where you're at in the world in terms of the geolocation, but it matters because we can all be online at the same time. We can be all in the digital presence at the same time. What are you seeing? What are the new trends that you can share with our viewers? What are the things that people should be anxious about and or excited about?
Well, it's true. You said that we can be online at the same time, wherever we are, because now we have this amazing opportunity of the internet connection and all of this. But I learned on my skin that the existing market here is so different. So whatever is a trend here, maybe for me or you, will never be a trend. So if you, okay, the answer that I can give you as a professional from a technical and creative point of view would be one, but what I say you as a person that have to live with this job, so I have to get the customers here, will be different.
Yeah.
The trend here is also adult people on TikTok. So what can you do on TikTok? You can just point a mobile and fake to sing or thing like that. And I swear you, I see this thing down also from 65 years old people here. So no, I'm serious. So, you know, as I told you before, I think the ability of the marketing people have to be to understand the psychology behind the tool, where you are, because you cannot think that you can change their mind. You have to follow what they do. And if you don't follow what they do, you're going to crash. So if you ask me what is my point of view in terms of trend, for sure, where I am, everything connected with the audiovisual have to be as more similar as possible to channel like TikTok or Facebook that here could be a trend. So we talk about very simple thing with a strong impact, where the person is at the center of the video, where they are the real, let's say, main profile in everything. You know, I'm not sure how long this thing will go on, but it still be a trend. I can tell you that I saw in Thailand, and this was very nice, a huge evolution in the last 5 years. Now they are producing very beautiful emotional marketing videos. So they understood what is emotional marketing. They understood that they should be able to create an history behind the video, also for advertisement that in some way go to touch, no? So the importance of the creation of the touching points in the audiovisual communication and not just the show off. So I hope this thing will happen soon also in Cambodia. But for the moment where I am, it is pretty, I don't want to say it is late because it's not the right word, but if I want to work here, I have to make a step back, not a step forward. If you ask me in general terms, so in looking at 2021 from a general worldwide perspective, in terms of trend, I think that will resist everything connected with emotional marketing, because people, especially this year, have been feeling a lot of emotion and need to release this emotion. So I guess that everything connected with a good message and nice images that can make you feel the sensation, and so experience the sensation through the video will be winning. I saw in the last years a certain, let's say that, you know, everything connected with the bling bling and the video where the people were fake in some way or super plastic. So this was losing a lot of credibility. This in the Western country, but here still be a trend. So, you know, I'm in this situation, you know.
They're very distinctive parallels, isn't it? But also opposites in terms of how things work. So you would think that TikTok in the third world countries is like a thing not so much appreciated, but you just say to your point that that's what is in trend right now, and I believe that's in trend as well in the Western world to a certain extent. In terms of emotional intelligence advertising, I really like that aspect that you just brought about, because I think that what you're saying is that brands will be better off introducing content that sort of has a happy feeling context to it, sort of positive reinforcement of getting out of this rut that we've been in terms of being so engrossed with the fear of COVID and what's going on and how sad the statistics are looking. So if maybe brands can now start focusing on things that will brighten up the atmosphere, that will brighten up people's moods, it will brighten up our screens and our texts on digital platforms, that will be sort of the way forward going into 2021, because people have got emotional fatigue in terms of seeing sad images and all these news outlets just spilling out the numbers of people that are dying from COVID and stuff like that, the restrictions and the politics, the mudslinging politics that are going on in America and everywhere else in the world. So I think that you're right. We are all just looking forward to some sort of fresh spring cleaning type of advertisement and communications that can just make our hearts feel a little bit happier if we can. So yeah, thank you so much for that. So before I let you go, I would like to find out from you, Monica, where do you see yourself in the next 2 years in Cambodia? Where do you see yourself as a communication profession? What is it that we can expect from you as a person and as a professional? Sorry.
If I stay in Cambodia, as very probably will happen, as I've been investing so much time to learn to write and read and speak Cambodian language, which is pretty difficult. If I stay here, I hope that I will be able, beside of the marketing office and all of that, I hope that I will be able to develop training skills, because I really want to share with others my knowledge and help other people to develop their capacities. And Cambodia is one country where especially young people really need to be supported. They really need to receive the right information, the right knowledge. In this moment, the education system here is like, this is my perception, of course. They don't really want to give them the knowledge. They just want to give them the piece of paper, which is a big difference, you know. So in my little, I hope that I will be able to become a very good teacher in terms of trainer, in terms of coacher, in terms of support the people to become good person and great professional. So I'm not thinking only about me. I'm really in a moment of my life where I'm thinking to be able also to support others in their step to become, you know.
Yeah. So you want to help young people to become better versions of themselves. And you're right. I think to your point, education is not about just sitting in class. It's about how you learn and how you assimilate what you've learned and practice that. It's one thing to be educated, but it's another to be learned. So, so that's really a good point. It's been so delightful having you on the show today on this Christmas special edition. And before we finish off, is there anything sort of piece of advice that you would want to give to our audience? Something that sort of like they can take away from this conversation that we've had and maybe apply for themselves in their lives in a practical way, speaking of education and imparting wisdom on others? What would you like to say to our audience, our viewers?
Because we are in the Christmas period, I would like to give this message and say a thing that may appear maybe simple, but is probably the most important in our life. Listen to yourself. Listen to your heart. Do what you feel good to do. Don't think only about the material realization. Because if you think about your job in terms of material realization only, first of later, you will get tired. But if you really love what you do, you will never get tired, and you will always find inspiration for yourself and for all the people around you. So everybody who works in this sector should remember that we are gifted. We are really gifted because we are in a position where, yes, we can make good money, but we can also help others from many points of view, you know, with the messages that we give, with the audiovisual that we create, with everything connected with our job of every day. We can do much more than just digit in front of the computer, you know.
Brilliant. So, I love it. That's very helpful. And if our audience wanted to reach out to you, how would they be able to find you, Monica?
Well, I have a personal website, which is www.monicacosta.asia. I'm on LinkedIn, so it's not difficult to find me. And
Brilliant. Thank you so much. You've been such an amazing guest to have on this Christmas special edition of Wired Women. And I look forward to speaking to you and learning more about the amazing work that you're doing in Cambodia. Thank you so much for joining me on the show today.
Thank you, Jennifer. You are fantastic. You're doing a great job. I wish you all the best and the maximum success that you deserve.
Thank you. You too. Bye now.